I never thought I'd be posting here, but after what happened at my wedding last month, I need to get this off my chest. This is going to be extremely long, so grab some coffee and settle in. I'm still processing everything that went down, and honestly, writing this out is therapeutic. Background: the golden child dynamic. I'm 29F, recently married to my amazing husband David, 31M, in Portland, Oregon. We've been together for 4 years, and he's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. But this story isn't really about him. It's about my sister Brittany, 26F, and the toxic family dynamic that I finally broke free from on my wedding day. Brittany has always been what you'd call the golden child in our family. She's the youngest, the prettiest, according to my parents, somehow always gets her way, and has never faced a single consequence for her actions in her entire life. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm really not. Let me paint you a picture of what growing up with Brittany was like. When I was 16, I saved up for months from my part-time job at a local bookstore to buy a vintage leather jacket from this boutique downtown. It was perfect. Soft brown leather with brass buckles, and it made me feel so confident and grown up. I wore it maybe 3 times before Brittany borrowed it for a date. She returned it 2 weeks later with bright purple nail polish spilled across the back. When I confronted her, she shrugged and said, "Accidents happen, Em. Don't be so dramatic." My parents' response? "She's your little sister. She didn't mean to damage it. You need to be more understanding." When I was 18 and heading off to college, I had managed to get a signed Taylor Swift album at a meet and greet. It was one of my most prized possessions. I was a huge Swiftie and had waited in line 6 hours to meet her. Brittany was 14 at the time and borrowed the album to show her friends. When I came home for winter break, I asked for it back. "Oh, that old thing? I think I lost it when we moved my room around. Sorry." She wasn't sorry. She was smiling. The worst incident happened when I was 25. I had been saving money for over a year to buy a vintage Chanel bag from this consignment shop. It wasn't just any bag. It was from the 1980s, in perfect condition, and it was going to be my one big splurge before I started saving for a house. The bag cost me $2,800, which was an enormous amount of money for me at the time. I owned it for exactly 2 months before Brittany asked to borrow it for some music festival. Against my better judgment, and after an hour of her begging and my parents pressuring me to just let her use it once, I agreed. She promised to take good care of it. The bag came back covered in mud, beer stains, and what I'm pretty sure was vomit. The leather was permanently damaged, the chain strap was broken, and there was a cigarette burn on the front flap. When I saw it, I actually started crying. Brittany's response? "God, Emma, it's just a purse. I'll buy you a new one from Target." She never bought me anything. My parents told me I was being materialistic and that things can be replaced, but family is forever. These weren't isolated incidents. This was a pattern that had been going on my entire life. Brittany would take my things, damage or lose them, and then I would be made to feel guilty for being upset about it. Every single time, the family narrative was that I needed to be the bigger person, the understanding sister, the one who makes sacrifices for family harmony. The pattern extended beyond just material things. In high school, I was salutatorian and had earned a scholarship to Oregon State University. My graduation party was planned for 2 weeks after the ceremony. 3 days before my party, Brittany announced she was throwing a pre-summer bash for her friends the same night. My parents canceled my party and combined it with hers because it would be more fun for everyone. When I landed my first real job at a marketing firm in Portland, I was so excited to share the news. I called my parents from the parking lot after my interview to tell them I'd been hired. Their response? "That's nice, honey. Did we tell you that Brittany got accepted to that art program she applied for? We're taking her out to dinner to celebrate. Want to come?" Every achievement, every milestone, every moment that should have been mine was somehow shared or overshadowed by Brittany. And I let it happen because I was conditioned to believe that being a good sister meant making myself smaller so she could shine brighter. Meeting David and starting to see clearly. When I met David 4 years ago, everything started to change. He was different from anyone I'd ever dated. Kind, supportive, and most importantly, he saw me. Really saw me. Not as someone's sister or someone's daughter, but as Emma, a whole person deserving of love and respect. David was the first person who ever got angry on my behalf when I told him stories about my family. When I mentioned the Chanel bag incident, he was quiet for a long moment before saying, "Emma, that's not normal. That's not how families are supposed to treat each other." "But she's my sister," I said automatically, the programmed response I'd been giving my whole life. "So? That doesn't give her the right to treat you like a doormat." It was the first time anyone had ever suggested that maybe, just maybe, I didn't deserve to be treated the way my family treated me. Over the next few years, David helped me start setting small boundaries. When Brittany asked to borrow my car for a weekend trip, she had already damaged it twice before, I said no. When my parents pressured me to lend her money for rent, money I knew I'd never see again, I declined. Each time the family reaction was swift and intense. I was being selfish, mean, not the sister they raised me to be. But David was there, reminding me that my feelings mattered, that my possessions deserved respect, and that love shouldn't come with conditions. The engagement. David proposed to me on a hiking trail outside Portland last October. It was perfect. Just the two of us, surrounded by fall colors, with a ring he designed himself based on conversations we'd had about what I loved. I was over the moon. We decided to have an engagement party 2 weeks later at our apartment. Nothing fancy, just close friends and family, some appetizers, and champagne. I was so excited to celebrate this milestone with the people I loved. The day of the party, I spent hours cleaning the apartment, preparing food, and getting everything perfect. I wore a new dress, a beautiful navy blue number that made me feel confident and happy. I was practically glowing. Brittany arrived 30 minutes late, wearing a white cocktail dress. Not just any white dress, but a form-fitting, attention-grabbing white dress that looked suspiciously bridal. She waltzed in like she owned the place, immediately drawing attention from everyone in the room. "Sorry I'm late," she announced loudly. I couldn't decide what to wear to Emma's little party. Little party. She called my engagement party my little party. Within minutes, she was holding court in the middle of my living room, telling everyone about her latest art project, her new apartment, her dating life. She managed to work into every conversation how she was so excited to plan her own wedding someday, and how she knew exactly what kind of dress she wanted. My college friend Sarah pulled me aside. "Is it just me? Or is Brittany being weird tonight?" I watched as Brittany posed for photos with various guests, always managing to position herself in the center of every shot. When David's mom complimented my ring, Brittany immediately extended her own hand and said, "I can't wait until I have one. I've already picked out exactly what I want." The final straw came when it was time for toasts. David stood up with his champagne glass and started to speak about our relationship and our future together. Halfway through his toast, Brittany interrupted. Wait, she called out, laughing. "Before you finish, I have something to say too." She stood up and launched into a 5-minute monologue about sibling love, about how she and I were practically twins, and how she was so excited to help plan the perfect wedding. She ended by saying, "I just know Emma's wedding is going to be amazing, especially with my help making sure everything is absolutely perfect." My engagement party became Brittany's show. Again. That night, after everyone had gone home and David and I were cleaning up, I found myself crying over the dirty dishes. "She did it again," I whispered. She took over my moment. David put his arms around me. "Em, we need to talk about the wedding. If we don't set boundaries now, she's going to try to take that over too." He was right, but I had no idea how right he was. Wedding planning begins. David and I wanted a relatively small wedding, about 100 guests at a beautiful vineyard outside Portland. We set the date for September, giving us 11 months to plan. I was so excited to finally have something that was truly mine. My first mistake was including my family in the early planning stages. I should have known something was up when my mother called me 3 days after we sent out save the dates. "Emma, sweetie, I've been thinking about the wedding, and I have some ideas that I think would make it extra special." "What kind of ideas, Mom?" "Well, you know how close you and Brittany are. What if we made her more than just a bridesmaid? What if she was like a co-maid of honor with Sarah? Wouldn't that be lovely? I could feel my stomach starting to twist. Mom, Sarah is my maid of honor. Brittany is already in the bridal party. I know, but I was thinking we could make it even more special by having both my daughters stand together at the altar. Maybe Brittany could wear something that coordinates with your dress? Something white to show that you're both part of the bridal party? There it was, the white dress request I should have seen coming from a mile away. Mom, traditionally, only the bride wears white. Oh, Emma, don't be so old-fashioned. This is 2024. Besides, Brittany would look absolutely stunning in white, and it would make for such beautiful photos having both my girls looking like angels. I tried to explain why this made me uncomfortable, but Mom brushed off every concern. You're being silly, honey. It's just a color. Besides, Brittany has been so sad since her breakup with Tyler. This would really lift her spirits. Ah, yes. Tyler? Brittany's ex-boyfriend, who she dated for 3 months, and who broke up with her because she was too high maintenance. This breakup had occurred 6 months ago, but according to my parents, Brittany was still devastated and needed extra love and attention. I told Mom I'd think about it, but internally, I was already dreading what was coming next. The dress shopping disaster. 2 weeks later, I had my first appointment at Bella Rosa Bridal, a boutique that had been recommended by several friends. The owner, Mrs. Chen, was this lovely woman in her 60s who had been in the wedding business for over 30 years. She made me feel so comfortable and understood exactly what I was looking for. After trying on about 8 dresses, I found the one. It was everything I had dreamed of. Ivory silk with hand-beaded lace appliques, off-the-shoulder sleeves that made me feel like a princess, and a cathedral train that would look stunning in photos. The fit was perfect, the price was within our budget, and I felt absolutely radiant wearing it. Mrs. Chen was taking my measurements when I heard the boutique door chime. I looked in the mirror and felt my heart sink. My mother and Brittany had just walked in. Surprise! Mom called out cheerfully. We thought we'd stop by and see how the dress shopping was going. I hadn't told them where or when I was shopping. They had somehow found out and decided to ambush me. Mrs. Chen looked confused. I'm sorry, but I don't have any other appointments scheduled for today. Oh, we don't need an appointment, Brittany said breezily, already walking around the shop and looking at dresses. I'm the sister of the bride. I need to find something gorgeous for the wedding. Something white, Mom added helpfully, to coordinate with Emma's dress. Mrs. Chen's expression shifted from confusion to professional concern. In her 30 years of business, she had clearly dealt with this situation before. Ma'am, she said carefully to my mother, it's very unusual for family members of the bride to wear white to a wedding. Perhaps we could find something in a lovely blue or pink? Nonsense, Mom waved her hand dismissively. Emma and Brittany have always shared everything. Haven't you, girls? Before I could answer, Brittany had pulled a dress off the rack that made my blood run cold. It was from the same designer as my dress, part of the same collection. Same silhouette, same beading, same ivory silk. The only differences were cap sleeves instead of off the shoulder and a slightly shorter train. This one is perfect, Brittany squealed, holding it up against herself in the 3-way mirror. We'll look like twin brides. How fun is that? Mrs. Chen caught my eye in the mirror. Her expression was a mix of professional obligation and personal outrage. Miss Thompson, she said carefully, perhaps we should discuss this privately? There's nothing to discuss, Mom interrupted. We'll take this dress in a size 6. No, I said firmly, we won't. The silence that followed was deafening. Brittany's face immediately crumpled into her signature wounded expression. Emma, don't be mean, she whimpered. I just want to look pretty at your wedding. You can look pretty in literally any other color. But I look best in white. You know I do. Mom stepped forward. Emma Marie Thompson, you are being incredibly selfish right now. Your sister just wants to feel included. By wearing a wedding dress to my wedding? It's not a wedding dress, Brittany protested. It's just a white dress. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. Actually, miss, this is from our bridal collection. It is, technically, a wedding dress. Brittany's face flushed red. Well, it doesn't matter what collection it's from. I should be able to wear whatever I want. Not to someone else's wedding, I said, my voice getting stronger. Absolutely not. Mom's expression turned cold. Fine, we'll find another bridal shop, one that understands the importance of family. They gathered their purses and headed for the door. Before leaving, Brittany turned back to me. I hope you're happy, Emma. You're ruining what could have been a beautiful moment for our family. After they left, Mrs. Chen poured me a cup of tea with hands that were slightly shaking. Honey, she said gently, in all my years doing this, I've seen some family drama, but what just happened? She shook her head. You need to protect your wedding day. They're not going to stop here. What do you mean? I mean that your sister is going to find a white dress somewhere else, and she's going to show up to your wedding wearing it, and your mother is going to support her. You need to be prepared for that. I sipped my tea, feeling a cold dread settle in my stomach. What should I do? Set boundaries now. Make it clear that anyone wearing white to your wedding will be asked to leave. And follow through on that threat. I nodded, but inside I was thinking about how my family would react to such an ultimatum. The guilt trips, the accusations of being a bridezilla, the threats to boycott the wedding entirely. But Mrs. Chen was right. I had to protect my day. The social media campaign. Over the next few days, I tried to put the dress shop incident out of my mind and focus on other wedding planning tasks. David and I met with our photographer, tasted cakes, and finalized the guest list. For brief moments, I felt excited again. Then Brittany started her social media campaign. It began subtly. A Facebook post about family loyalty and how some people forget what's really important in life. An Instagram story with a photo of a white dress, not the one from Mrs. Chen's shop, but similar, with the caption, "When you find the perfect dress, but some people don't want you to shine." Within a day, the posts became more direct. Going dress shopping for my sister's wedding. Can't wait to look absolutely stunning # white party, sister goals. The comments on that post made my stomach churn. Wait, are you getting married too? I didn't know Emma had a double wedding planned. You're going to look amazing in white. Sister brides, so cute. I screenshot everything and sent it to David. He called me immediately. She's literally telling people she's going to be a bride at your wedding. I know. I don't know what to do. We need to talk to her. Directly. No more going through your parents. That evening, I called Brittany. She answered on the first ring, sounding cheerful and completely innocent. Emma, what's up? Brittany, we need to talk about your social media posts. What about them? You're confusing people. They think you're getting married at my wedding. She laughed. Oh, that's silly. I'm just excited to look beautiful at my sister's special day. By wearing white. By wearing whatever makes me feel confident and happy. I took a deep breath. Brittany, I'm asking you, as your sister, please don't wear white to my wedding. Why not? Because it's inappropriate. Because it's my day. Because white is traditionally reserved for the bride. That's such an old-fashioned rule, Em. I thought you were more progressive than that. It's not about being progressive. It's about respect. Respect goes both ways, and I don't feel very respected right now. The conversation went in circles for 20 minutes. Brittany had an excuse or justification for everything. She wasn't trying to upstage me. She just wanted to feel pretty. She wasn't breaking any rules, just challenging outdated traditions. She wasn't being attention-seeking, just expressing herself. By the end of the call, I felt like I was losing my mind. How do you argue with someone who refuses to acknowledge the basic premise of your argument? Family intervention attempt. After the phone call with Brittany went nowhere, I decided to try talking to my parents directly. Maybe if I could make them understand how much this meant to me, they could talk sense into Brittany. I should have known better. I drove to their house on a Saturday morning, finding them in the kitchen reading the newspaper and drinking coffee like it was any other weekend. Mom, Dad, we need to talk about Brittany and the wedding. Dad looked up from his paper. What about it? She's planning to wear white, and she's posting about it on social media. People are confused, and I'm upset. Mom sighed dramatically. Emma, honey, why are you making such a big deal about this? It's just a dress. It's not just a dress, Mom. It's a white dress at a wedding. My wedding. And you'll be wearing white too. You'll still be the bride. That's not the point. The point is that she's deliberately trying to draw attention to herself at my expense. Dad folded his newspaper with a sharp snap. Your sister has been going through a hard time since her breakup. She needs our support right now, not judgment. What about my needs? What about supporting me? You're fine, Emma. You've always been fine. You have a good job, a nice apartment, a man who loves you. Brittany is struggling. I felt like I was talking to a wall. So because I'm doing well in life, my feelings don't matter? That's not what we're saying, Mom interjected. We're saying that sometimes, when you love someone, you make small sacrifices to help them feel better. Small sacrifices? Mom, she's trying to wear a wedding dress to my wedding. It's not a wedding dress, it's a white dress. There's a difference. What difference? Neither of them could answer that question. The conversation continued for another hour, with my parents alternately guilt-tripping me. Family should come first, minimizing my concerns, you're being too sensitive, and making excuses for Brittany. She's been so depressed. I left their house feeling more frustrated and alone than ever. It was becoming clear that my parents were never going to take my side in this conflict. Brittany was their golden child, and I was expected to accommodate her, no matter what. The extended family gets involved. Word about the white dress controversy started spreading through our extended family, and soon I was fielding calls from aunts, uncles, and cousins who all had opinions about the situation. Most of them sided with Brittany. My Aunt Linda called first. Emma, sweetie, I heard about this silly little disagreement with your sister. Don't you think you're being a bit of a bridezilla? The word bridezilla hit me like a slap. Was I being unreasonable? Was I making too big a deal out of this? Aunt Linda, she wants to wear white to my wedding. So? You'll be wearing white too. Can't you share the spotlight for one day? Share the spotlight. At my own wedding. My cousin Sarah, different from my maid of honor Sarah, we have a lot of Sarahs in the family, called next. I know Brittany can be a lot sometimes, but she's family, and family forgives. What exactly am I supposed to be forgiving her for? She hasn't done anything wrong yet? I meant she should forgive you for being so rigid about this dress thing. I was supposed to ask for forgiveness for not wanting someone else to wear white to my wedding. Uncle Bob's call was the most infuriating. Emma, I raised 4 daughters, and let me tell you something about women and weddings. You girls get all worked up over the silliest things. In 50 years, you're not going to remember what color dress your sister wore. You're going to remember whether your family was there to support you. I'll remember if my sister tried to upstage me at my own wedding. Upstage you? Come on, Emma. You're prettier than Brittany. You're more successful. You're getting married first. Let the girl have this one thing. Let her have wearing white to my wedding. Let her have that one thing. The calls kept coming. Cousin Michael thought I should compromise by letting Brittany wear off-white. Aunt Carol suggested we both wear white and turn it into a theme. Great Aunt Ruth told me that in her day, brides were just grateful to have family show up, regardless of what they wore. Each conversation left me feeling more gaslit and confused. Was I really being unreasonable? Was this really such a small thing? Why did everyone else seem to think I was the problem? The only person who supported me was my grandmother on my father's side, Grandma Betty. She was 89 years old and didn't mince words. That girl has been trouble since the day she was born, she said bluntly when I called her crying after a particularly brutal conversation with Aunt Linda. And your parents created a monster by never telling her no. But Grandma, everyone thinks I'm being mean. Everyone is wrong. I've been to a lot of weddings in my life, Emma, and I've never seen a sister wear white to a wedding. It's disrespectful and everyone knows it. They're just too scared of Brittany's tantrums to say so. Talking to Grandma Betty made me feel sane again. She validated what I instinctively knew. This wasn't normal, and I wasn't wrong to be upset about it. David's family weighs in. Meanwhile, David's family was watching this drama unfold with a mixture of confusion and horror. David's mom, Patricia, called me one evening after David had filled her in on what was happening. Emma, honey, I don't understand. Why would Brittany want to wear white to your wedding? Because she wants attention. But it's your wedding. She'll get attention just for being your sister and standing in the bridal party. I realized that Patricia was approaching this from a normal family perspective. In her world, family members supported each other and respected boundaries. The idea of deliberately trying to upstage the bride was foreign to her. Patricia, in my family, there's this dynamic where Brittany gets whatever she wants and everyone else adjusts to accommodate her. That sounds exhausting. It is. David's sister Jennifer was even more direct when she heard the story. That's fucked up, Emma. Sorry for the language, but that's seriously messed up. If I tried to wear white to my sister's wedding, my mom would lock me in my room. It was refreshing to have people validate my feelings instead of telling me I was overreacting. David's dad, usually a quiet man, surprised everyone by offering to hire security for the wedding. If she shows up in white, we'll have her escorted out, he said matter-of-factly. Problem solved. I was touched by their support, but also embarrassed that it had come to this point. The dress hunt. Despite all the family pressure and guilt trips, I held firm on my boundary. No white dresses at my wedding. I thought maybe Brittany would eventually see reason and choose something else. I was wrong. 3 weeks after the bridal shop incident, Brittany posted a photo on Instagram that made my heart stop. She was in a dressing room at Nordstrom, wearing a white dress that was clearly meant to be worn to a wedding. It wasn't quite as bridal as the dress from Mrs. Chen's shop, but it was close. White, form-fitting, with delicate lace details and a small train. The caption read, "Found the perfect dress for my sister's wedding. Can't wait to look absolutely stunning # white party, wedding ready, sister style." The comments were a mix of confusion and encouragement. Wait, are you both getting married? You look like a bride. So pretty in white. I didn't know this was a double wedding. I screenshot the post and sent it to David, my maid of honor Sarah, and Mrs. Chen. All 3 of them had the same reaction. This had gone too far. Sarah called me immediately. Emma, we need to do something. She's clearly planning to show up looking like a second bride. What can I do? I can't physically stop her from buying a dress. No, but you can make it clear that if she shows up wearing that dress, she'll be asked to leave. Mrs. Chen sent me a long text with advice from her decades in the wedding business. Document everything. Take screenshots of her posts. Save any text messages where she talks about wearing white. If this escalates, you'll want proof that she was deliberately trying to cause problems. I started keeping a folder on my phone with all the evidence of Brittany's behavior. It felt crazy to be building a case against my own sister, but her actions were becoming increasingly unhinged. The point of no return, the final straw, came 6 weeks before the wedding. Brittany posted a Facebook status that I saw when I was having lunch with a colleague. So excited for my sister Emma's wedding. I'll be wearing the most gorgeous white dress. We're going to look like twin brides. Some people have small minds about wedding traditions, but Emma and I have always been progressive. Can't wait to stand beside her at the altar. Sister brides, double the troubles, # breaking traditions. I read the post 3 times, my sandwich forgotten on my plate. She was publicly claiming that I had approved of her wearing white. She was telling our mutual friends and family members that we had discussed this and agreed on it. She was painting me as a willing participant in her plan. The lies were what pushed me over the edge. I called her immediately, not caring that I was in a public restaurant. Brittany, I just saw your Facebook post. Oh, good. I was hoping you'd see it. I think it perfectly captures how special this is going to be. You lied. What do you mean? You said I approved of you wearing white. You said we discussed it and agreed on it. That's a lie. Well, I mean, we did discuss it, and I told you no, repeatedly. I guess I interpreted your concerns as just pre-wedding jitters. I figured once you thought about it more, you'd realize how silly you were being. I was sitting in a crowded restaurant, having this conversation while people at nearby tables pretended not to listen. Brittany, I need you to post a correction. Right now. Tell people that you will not be wearing white to my wedding. I'm not posting anything like that. It would be embarrassing. Then I'll post a correction myself. Emma, if you publicly embarrass me on social media, I will never forgive you. If you show up to my wedding in a white dress, I will never forgive you. We hung up on each other. That evening, I crafted a Facebook post that I agonized over for 2 hours before hitting publish. Hi, everyone. I've seen some confusion on social media about my upcoming wedding, so I wanted to clarify. This is a traditional wedding where only the bride, me, will be wearing white. All other guests, including family members, are encouraged to wear any other color. Looking forward to celebrating with all of you. The post was diplomatic, but the message was clear. I wasn't naming Brittany directly, but anyone who had seen her posts would understand what I was addressing. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments poured in from friends and family. Can't wait to see you in your dress. You're going to be a beautiful bride. Smart to clarify, some people don't understand wedding etiquette. But there were also some pointed comments that let me know the family war was far from over. Some sisters would be happy to share the spotlight, from Aunt Linda. Traditions are meant to evolve, from Cousin Sarah. Family drama on Facebook? Really? From Uncle Bob. Brittany's response came in the form of a private message that arrived at 11 p.m. I can't believe you publicly humiliated me like that. All I wanted was to look beautiful at your wedding, and you've turned this into some kind of war. I hope you're happy. You've shown everyone what kind of person you really are. I showed the message to David. He read it twice before shaking his head. She's completely delusional. What if she's right? What if I am being awful? Emma, look at me. He took my hands. You asked your sister not to wear white to your wedding. That's the most normal, reasonable request a bride can make. The fact that she's fighting you on it, lying about it on social media, and trying to make you feel guilty about it shows exactly who the problem is here. Security arrangements. After the Facebook incident, it became clear that Brittany was not going to back down. If anything, she seemed more determined than ever to wear white to my wedding. David and I made the difficult decision to hire security for our wedding day. David's best man, Marcus, works in private security and had mentioned earlier that he could arrange for professional security if we needed it. When we called him with our situation, he didn't seem surprised. Happens more often than you think, he said. Family members who can't handle not being the center of attention. We've handled everything from drunk uncles to uninvited guests to, yes, attention-seeking siblings. Marcus explained that they would position security personnel at the venue entrance and have a plan in place for anyone who showed up inappropriately dressed. They would first attempt to speak with the person privately and ask them to change or leave. If that didn't work, they would be escorted from the premises. Will that cause a scene? I asked, worried about the optics of having my sister forcibly removed from my wedding. Less of a scene than letting her stay and disrupt your ceremony, Marcus replied. Trust me, other guests will be grateful that someone took action. We also decided to change our wedding timeline to minimize the opportunities for drama. Instead of getting ready at my parents' house like we had originally planned, I would get ready at the hotel where we were having the reception. This would give me a safe space and reduce the amount of time I'd have to spend managing Brittany's behavior. The photographer, Jessica, was also briefed on the situation. We asked her to focus on capturing me, David, and our chosen wedding party, rather than trying to include extended family members who might be causing problems. I've shot weddings where family members tried to insert themselves inappropriately, Jessica assured us. I know how to keep the focus where it should be, on the bride and groom. The final family meeting. 1 week before the wedding, my parents requested a family meeting at their house. I almost declined, but David convinced me that I should go and make one final attempt to set clear boundaries. We sat in their living room, the same room where I'd been told countless times throughout my childhood to be the bigger person and let your sister have this one thing. The irony wasn't lost on me. We need to discuss this situation before the wedding, Dad began. Your mother and I are very concerned about the conflict between you and Brittany. What conflict? I asked. I asked her not to wear white to my wedding. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, Mom said, because you've been unreasonable and inflexible. Brittany, who had been sitting quietly on the love seat, finally spoke up. All I want is to feel beautiful at my sister's wedding. Why is that so threatening to you, Emma? It's not threatening. It's inappropriate. Brittany, you know exactly what you're doing, and we all know why you're doing it. What's that supposed to mean? It means you can't stand the idea of me having one day that's completely mine. You've spent our entire lives inserting yourself into my moments, taking my things, and demanding equal treatment, even when the situation has nothing to do with you." The room fell silent. I had never spoken this directly to my family about the pattern of behavior that had defined our relationships for decades. Mom recovered first. "Emma, that's a terrible thing to say about your sister." "Is it? Let's talk about terrible things, Mom. Let's talk about how you and Dad have enabled Brittany to treat me like a supporting character in my own life for 29 years. Dad's face was turning red. "Young lady, you need to adjust your attitude right now." "Or what, Dad? You'll take away my allowance? Ground me? I'm 29 years old, I'm getting married in 1 week, and I'm done pretending that this family's dysfunction is normal." David squeezed my hand, silently encouraging me to continue. "Brittany, I'm going to say this one more time, as clearly as I possibly can. If you show up to my wedding wearing white, you will be asked to leave. I have hired security to ensure this happens. This is not a threat or a bluff. This is a promise." Brittany's eyes filled with tears, her signature move. "You hired security? To keep me out of your wedding?" "I hired security to keep out anyone who tries to disrupt my wedding. If you choose to show up appropriately dressed and behave respectfully, you'll have no problems with security." "I can't believe you're being so cruel," she sobbed. "I'm your sister." "Yes, you are. And as my sister, you should want me to have a beautiful, peaceful wedding day. Instead, you're doing everything you can to make it about you." Mom stood up abruptly. "That's enough. Brittany, honey, let's go upstairs. We don't need to listen to this." As they headed for the stairs, Mom turned back to me. "Emma, if you go through with this security nonsense, there will be consequences. Your father and I won't stand for you publicly humiliating our family." "What consequences, Mom? What exactly are you going to do to me?" She didn't have an answer. After they left the room, Dad and I sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Emma, your mother and I have always tried to treat you girls equally." "No, Dad. You've tried to treat us identically, which is completely different. Treating us equally would mean that when one of us does something wrong, there are consequences. It would mean that my feelings and boundaries matter just as much as Brittany's desires. We just want everyone to get along. Getting along shouldn't require me to sacrifice my dignity and my wedding day." I stood up to leave. "I love you and Mom, and I love Brittany, but I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep everyone else warm anymore." The wedding week. The week leading up to my wedding was a blur of final preparations mixed with family drama. My parents weren't speaking to me. Brittany was posting cryptic social media updates about fake sisters and people who change when they get a little attention. Several family members were calling to try to convince me to make peace before the wedding. I ignored all of it. Instead, I focused on the people who were actually supporting me. Sarah, my maid of honor, took time off work to help with last-minute details. David's family welcomed me with open arms and made me feel like their daughter. My grandmother, Betty, despite being 89 years old, called me every day to check in and remind me that I was doing the right thing. Jessica, our photographer, sent me a detailed timeline for the wedding day that carefully managed when and where family photos would be taken. "We'll get all the shots you want," she assured me, "but we'll do it on your terms." Mrs. Chen called to wish me luck and remind me that she was keeping my dress at the boutique until the morning of the wedding. "This way, you don't have to worry about anyone getting access to it beforehand," she said. The night before the wedding, I had my rehearsal dinner at a small restaurant in downtown Portland. It was intimate, just the wedding party, David's family, and a few close friends. Notably absent were my parents and Brittany, who had declined to attend after our confrontation. David's father stood up to give a toast, and his words brought tears to my eyes. "Emma, when David first brought you home to meet us, we could see how happy you made him. But over the past few years, we've also seen how happy you've become. You've grown into a confident, strong woman who knows her worth. Tomorrow, you're not just marrying our son, you're officially becoming our daughter. And we couldn't be more proud to welcome you into our family." The contrast between his unconditional support and my own family's conditional love was stark. The wedding day, getting ready. I woke up on my wedding day feeling surprisingly calm. After months of drama and stress, there was something peaceful about knowing that I had done everything I could to protect my day. I got ready in the bridal suite at the hotel with my bridesmaids and David's mom and sister. The atmosphere was joyful and relaxed, exactly what I had hoped for. We drank mimosas, did each other's hair, and laughed about silly things. For the first time in months, I felt like a normal bride preparing for her special day. Mrs. Chen arrived at 11 a.m. with my dress, which looked even more beautiful than I remembered. As she helped me into it, she whispered, "You look radiant, dear. This is how a bride should feel on her wedding day." At noon, Marcus texted me an update. "Your parents and sister have arrived at the venue. Situation as expected. We're ready." I felt a momentary flutter of anxiety, but then David's sister Jennifer took my hand. "Whatever happens out there, we've got your back," she said. "This is your day, and it's going to be perfect." The venue arrival. The vineyard looked absolutely magical. The ceremony space was set up overlooking the valley, with white chairs arranged in perfect rows and an arch decorated with white roses and greenery. The late afternoon sun was casting everything in golden light. As our car pulled up to the venue, I could see guests mingling during cocktail hour. Everyone looked elegant and happy, exactly as I had envisioned. Marcus met me at the car. "Status report. Your sister is wearing the white dress from her Instagram posts. My team has spoken with your parents about having her change or leave. They're claiming this is all a misunderstanding." I looked through the window and spotted Brittany immediately. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by several cousins, and she looked exactly like what she was trying to be, a second bride. The dress was even more inappropriate in person, clearly designed to be bridal, with a small train that was already dirty from dragging on the ground. But here's what I noticed that I hadn't expected. She looked ridiculous. The dress, which had looked elegant in her carefully staged Instagram photos, looked cheap and costumey in the natural outdoor lighting. The fabric was obviously synthetic, the proportions were wrong for the setting, and she had paired it with flashy jewelry that made the whole look seem desperate rather than beautiful. More importantly, the other guests were clearly uncomfortable. I could see people whispering and pointing, but not in admiration, in confusion and secondhand embarrassment. "Ma'am?" Marcus was waiting for my decision. I took a deep breath. "Give me 5 minutes to get set up for photos, then please ask her to leave." The confrontation. I was having pre-ceremony photos taken with my bridesmaids when I saw Marcus approaching Brittany. The conversation was brief and professional. Marcus showed her something on his phone, probably the text I had sent earlier that morning, reiterating that anyone in white would be asked to leave. Brittany's response was predictable. Tears, shouting, and a dramatic gesture toward where I was standing. Several guests turned to watch the commotion. My parents rushed over to intervene, with Mom immediately beginning to gesture wildly at Marcus. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see the body language. Brittany was pointing at me, Mom was pointing at Marcus, and Dad was trying to calm everyone down while looking mortified. After about 5 minutes, Marcus walked over to me. "She's refusing to leave or change. Your parents are saying this is a family matter and that security has no right to interfere. How would you like me to proceed?" I looked across the venue at my family. Brittany had composed herself and was now standing with her arms crossed, clearly believing she had won. Mom was smoothing her dress and checking her lipstick, preparing to rejoin the party. Dad was looking around nervously at the guests who were watching the drama unfold. "Escort her out," I said firmly. "All 3 of them if necessary." "Emma, are you sure?" I thought about every borrowed item that was returned damaged, every achievement that was overshadowed, every time I was told to be the bigger person while Brittany faced no consequences for her actions. "I'm sure." The actual removal was handled with more professionalism than I had expected. Marcus and another security officer approached my family calmly. They spoke quietly for a few minutes, then began walking toward the parking area. Brittany was crying loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, but she was walking under her own power. My parents followed, with Mom shooting me a look of pure fury as they passed, and then they were gone. The ceremony. With my family drama literally removed from the premises, the rest of my wedding day was everything I had dreamed of. The ceremony was beautiful and intimate. David's vows made me cry happy tears. Our friends and remaining family members were genuinely joyful and present. My grandmother Betty, despite her age, had insisted on attending and was walked down the aisle by David's father. She sat in the front row where my parents should have been, beaming with pride and dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the cheer from our guests was genuine and enthusiastic. No one seemed to be thinking about the earlier drama. They were focused on celebrating our marriage. The reception. The reception was perfect. Without the toxic dynamic of my immediate family, everyone relaxed and had a wonderful time. David's best man gave a hilarious speech about how David had been whipped from day one and how happy he was to see his friend marry someone who actually deserves him. My grandmother Betty surprised everyone by asking to say a few words. She stood up slowly, using her cane for balance, and spoke in her clear, strong voice. I've been to a lot of weddings in my 89 years, and I can tell you that this is what a wedding should look like. Two people who love each other, surrounded by people who love them, celebrating the beginning of their life together. Emma, you look beautiful, and more importantly, you look happy. David, you're getting a wonderful woman who knows her own worth. That's the kind of person you want to build a life with. The applause was thunderous. Later in the evening, several guests approached me to express support for how I had handled the situation with Brittany. My college friend Amanda pulled me aside. Emma, I need to tell you something. I've known you and Brittany for years, and I've watched her treat you terribly. I'm so proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. My cousin Lisa, from Dad's side, was even more direct. What Brittany did was completely inappropriate, and frankly, I'm glad someone finally called her out on her behavior. She's been getting away with way too much for way too long. Even some people I barely knew expressed support. David's elderly aunt told me, in my day, a girl who wore white to someone else's wedding would have been sent home immediately. You did exactly the right thing. The aftermath. Immediate. David and I left for our honeymoon in Italy the next morning, blissfully unaware of the social media storm that was brewing back home. We were sipping wine at a cafe in Rome when David's phone started buzzing with notifications. He had forgotten to put it on airplane mode, and messages were pouring in from friends and family back in Portland. The first thing we saw was Brittany's Instagram post, which had been uploaded at 3 a.m. Pacific time. Last night, I was brutally humiliated and kicked out of my own sister's wedding for the crime of wearing a beautiful dress. I'm heartbroken that someone I love could be so cruel and vindictive. I guess I know where I stand in this family now. Family first, heartbroken, sisterly love. The post had dozens of comments, ranging from supportive, I can't believe Emma did that to you, to confused, wait, why were you wearing white to a wedding? To brutally honest, girl, you brought this on yourself. But Brittany wasn't done. Over the next few hours, she had posted several more updates. A photo of the white dress with the caption, apparently this was too threatening for some people. A long Facebook post about toxic family members and people who change when they get a little attention. An Instagram story series showing screenshots of supportive messages she had received, with commentary about real friends versus fake family. My mother had also posted on Facebook. Sometimes you learn who people really are when they're planning a wedding. Very disappointed in how some family members have chosen to handle things. But here's what surprised me. The response wasn't overwhelmingly in Brittany's favor. Many people were commenting with questions about why she had worn white to a wedding. Others were sharing their own stories about inappropriate wedding guest attire. A few brave souls were directly calling out the behavior. Brittany, I love you, but wearing white to someone else's wedding is never okay. Maybe this was a learning experience about appropriate wedding etiquette? I'm confused. Why would you wear a bridal-looking dress to your sister's wedding? David and I decided to ignore the social media drama and focus on our honeymoon. We turned off our phones and spent 2 weeks exploring Italy, eating amazing food, and celebrating our marriage. The aftermath? Extended. When we returned home, the full extent of the family fallout became clear. My parents had been fielding calls from relatives for 2 weeks, and the family was essentially divided into camps. Team Brittany included my parents, Aunt Linda, Uncle Bob, and a few cousins who had always been close to my sister. They were telling anyone who would listen that I had publicly humiliated Brittany and destroyed the family over something as trivial as a dress color. Team Emma included Grandma Betty, most of David's family, my closer friends, and surprisingly several relatives who had witnessed Brittany's behavior over the years and were finally comfortable speaking up about it. But the biggest surprise was Team Neutral, family members who refused to take sides and were openly critical of the entire situation. My dad's brother, Uncle Steve, summed up this perspective in a phone call. "Emma, I love you and I love Brittany, but this whole thing has gotten out of hand. Yes, she was wrong to wear white to your wedding, but having security escort her out was pretty dramatic. Couldn't you have handled this differently?" I understood his perspective, but I also knew that I had tried to handle it differently for months. I had asked nicely, set boundaries clearly, and given multiple warnings. Brittany had chosen to ignore all of that. The long-term consequences. It's now been 6 months since my wedding, and the family dynamics have permanently shifted. My relationship with my parents is cordial but distant. We exchange pleasantries on holidays and birthdays, but the easy closeness we once had is gone. They still believe I overreacted, and I still believe they enabled Brittany's inappropriate behavior. Neither side is willing to budge. Brittany and I haven't spoken since the wedding. She has blocked me on all social media platforms and has made it clear through other family members that she considers our relationship over. Part of me is sad about this, but a bigger part of me feels relieved. The constant drama and boundary pushing was exhausting, and my life is much more peaceful without it. The most unexpected consequence has been the response from extended family and friends. Several people have reached out to share their own stories about dealing with toxic family dynamics around weddings and other major life events. I've received messages thanking me for showing them it's okay to set boundaries and for giving them permission to prioritize their own happiness. My grandmother Betty, now 89, has become one of my strongest allies. She calls me every week, and our conversations often include her sharing stories about family dynamics from previous generations. "Your mother did something similar at her sister-in-law's wedding back in 1987, she told me recently. Showed up in a white dress and caused a scene when people commented on it. Your Aunt Margaret never forgot it." These revelations have helped me understand that Brittany's behavior isn't an isolated incident, but part of a pattern that has been going on in my family for decades. My new life. David and I bought a house in a quiet neighborhood about an hour outside of Portland. The physical distance from my family has been as helpful as the emotional distance. We're building a life that's centered around our values and our chosen family of friends who support and respect us. I've gotten closer to David's family, who have essentially adopted me as their daughter. His parents include me in family traditions and ask for my input on family decisions. It's been healing to experience what healthy family dynamics look like. My career has also flourished since the wedding. Removing the constant stress of managing family drama has freed up mental energy that I can now invest in my work. I was promoted to senior marketing coordinator last month, and am finally pursuing the creative projects I've always been passionate about. Reflections. Looking back on everything that happened, I don't regret my decision to have Brittany escorted from my wedding. It was a dramatic action, but it was the natural consequence of months of boundary pushing and manipulation. What I do regret is waiting so long to stand up for myself. If I had established firmer boundaries earlier in life, the wedding situation might never have escalated to that point. But I also recognize that I was conditioned from childhood to prioritize Brittany's feelings over my own, and it takes time to unlearn that kind of programming. The experience taught me several important lessons. You can't change other people's behavior, but you can change how you respond to it. Setting boundaries isn't mean or selfish. It's necessary for healthy relationships. Some people will be angry when you stop allowing them to treat you poorly. That's their problem, not yours. Family relationships should be based on mutual respect, not just shared DNA. Sometimes protecting your peace requires making difficult choices. The update that started it all. I originally started writing this post because something happened last week that brought all of these memories flooding back. Brittany got engaged. I found out through a mutual friend's Instagram story, a photo of Brittany showing off a large diamond ring with the caption, "So happy for my friend." According to what I've heard through the family grapevine, she's been dating this guy for about 4 months. The engagement was a surprise to everyone, including my parents, who apparently found out about it on social media, along with everyone else. My mother called me for the first time in 3 months. "Emma, I know you and Brittany have had your differences, but she's getting married. This could be a chance for the family to heal." "Congratulations to Brittany," I said neutrally. "Don't you think you should call her? Maybe offer to help with wedding planning? It would mean so much to her." I could hear the hope in my mother's voice, the desperate desire to return to the family dynamics where I accommodated Brittany's needs at the expense of my own well-being. "Mom, I hope Brittany has a beautiful wedding, but I won't be participating in the planning and I'm not sure I'll be attending." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Emma, she's your sister." "Yes, she is. And when she's ready to have an adult conversation about what happened at my wedding and how we can rebuild our relationship based on mutual respect, I'll be here. Until then, I'm protecting my peace." I hung up feeling sad but also proud of myself for maintaining the boundaries I had worked so hard to establish. The real point of this story, I'm not sharing this story to get sympathy or to convince anyone that I was right and Brittany was wrong. What I'm sharing is the experience of finally learning to prioritize my own well-being over other people's comfort. For years, I was the family peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over conflicts and made excuses for bad behavior. I thought I was being loving and selfless, but what I was actually doing was enabling dysfunction and teaching people that my feelings didn't matter. My wedding day was the first time I enforced a boundary with real consequences, and it changed everything. Not just my relationship with Brittany, but my understanding of what I deserve from the people who claim to love me. If you're reading this and recognizing yourself in my story, if you're the one who always gives in, who always compromises, who always gets told to be the bigger person, I want you to know that your feelings matter, your boundaries matter, your peace of mind matters. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Final update, added today. I wasn't planning to add another update, but something happened this morning that I think puts a perfect bow on this whole story. I received a text message from an unknown number. "Hi, Emma. This is Jennifer, Brittany's maid of honor. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I got your number from mutual friend. I wanted to ask you about something related to the wedding planning. Could you give me a call when you have a chance?" I was curious enough to call her back. "Emma, thank you so much for calling. I hope this isn't weird, but I have to ask, did Brittany really wear a white dress to your wedding?" I confirmed that yes, she had. "Oh my God. She told all of us that you kicked her out for wearing a slightly off-white dress and that you were just being a bridezilla. But when I looked at her Instagram photos from that day..." Jennifer trailed off. "What's going on with her wedding planning?" I asked. "Well, that's why I'm calling. Brittany has some very specific ideas about her wedding, and some of them are concerning. She wants all of the bridesmaids to wear white because she says it will look elegant and cohesive. She also wants the mothers to wear white, and she's encouraging female guests to wear white because she wants the whole wedding to have a white party theme." I couldn't help but laugh. Wow. It gets worse. She told me that she got this idea from your wedding, where everyone looked so beautiful in white, and it created such a stunning visual effect. She's been telling people that your wedding had a white theme, and that's why the photos look so good. Jennifer continued, "But Emma, I've seen your wedding photos on David's mom's Facebook page. You were the only person wearing white, and you looked absolutely radiant. There was no white theme." No, there definitely wasn't. So she's lying about her own sister's wedding? Jennifer, I hate to say this about my own sister, but Brittany has a complicated relationship with the truth, especially when it comes to getting what she wants. There was a pause. Emma, can I ask you something else? Do you think I should quit as her maid of honor? Because honestly, after learning about what really happened at your wedding and seeing how she's planning this one, I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. I thought about this young woman, probably in her early 20s, trying to navigate the minefield of being friends with someone like Brittany. Jennifer, I can't make that decision for you. But I can tell you that you have every right to step back from any situation that makes you uncomfortable or asks you to compromise your values. True friends don't put you in those positions. We talked for another few minutes, and Jennifer thanked me for being honest with her. After we hung up, I felt a mix of emotions. Sadness that Brittany was still creating drama and manipulation around weddings, but also validation that my decision to enforce boundaries had been the right one. An hour later, I got another text from Jennifer. I just called Brittany and told her I can't be in her wedding. She's furious, but I feel so much better. Thank you for helping me see the situation clearly. And that, I think, is the real moral of this story. When you stop enabling toxic behavior and start modeling healthy boundaries, you give other people permission to do the same. Brittany will probably find another maid of honor who's willing to go along with her white party wedding theme. She'll probably tell everyone that both Jennifer and I are jealous, mean-spirited people who couldn't handle her happiness. But Jennifer learned something important about recognizing red flags and trusting her instincts. And I learned that the boundaries I set on my wedding day are still protecting me, and apparently others from unnecessary drama. Sometimes the best gift you can give someone is showing them that they don't have to accept unacceptable behavior. That's my story. Thanks for reading, and thanks for all the support from this community. It means more than you know. P.S. For anyone wondering, David and I are doing great. We celebrated our 6-month anniversary last week by going back to the same Italian restaurant where we honeymooned. We toasted to choosing each other, to building our own family traditions, and to the peace that comes from surrounding yourself with people who love and respect you. Life is good when you stop letting other people steal your joy.